Hey everyone, welcome to the Shadowcast post-show commentary for the Realmsmith series, Shadowrun Communication. Welcome! How are you doing, Jason?
I'm so good.
Oh, it's so good to chat with you. And I've got an echo in my ears. Let's see if that's who that's from. That's partially me. Sorry, I'm fixing my own stuff. All right. Well, Jason, you just got through the premiere of Shadowrun Communication. How does it feel?
It is a whirlwind, is what it feels like. We filmed it last week, and so I have been in the depths of editing and preparation and marketing for the show. But I feel great. I mean, we had an incredible cast, the best cast.
Heck yeah.
And it was an incredible experience, one of my best in my career. And you're a huge part to thank for that. And of course, the good people at Catalyst. It was fun and it was great. And I'm very, very proud of what we were able to do. And it was an incredible experience, one of my best.
Did I just?
I think we're still getting an echo, but
yeah, I'm trying to make sure I'm getting the right people at the right spot here. So bear with me here because I'm having some technical difficulty behind the scenes. Let's see.
Good.
All right. Oh, nope. I'm still echoing. I think I just have like 55 versions of this stream.
Yeah, you might have one of them is not muted. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's just close all the windows that aren't us.
Yeah.
All right, let's.
I think that works.
Still happening. I think I just have like 55. Closing.
Can we just say it's a glitch?
There we go. Yeah, it's a glitch. There we go. Yeah. There we go. All right, I'm good. Now I can think. Before I was trying to follow what you were saying, but then I would hear you from the stream and I was like, wait, which question is he answering and which one did I ask?
It's the worst.
Well, I'm really excited to talk with you. So we talked about how you're feeling post episode 1. Now, tell us a little bit about the process for getting this to come to fruition. It's great to have you here, and in general, but a partnership with Realmsmith is a big deal. So I want to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, it was fairly straightforward in the sense that we found out that you were interested in doing a Shadowrun, and obviously there were conversations that were had with the team, and very excited to have been chosen to do so. I mean, then the process is like, it's not hurry up and wait. It's like wait and then hurry up. It's like, you get together, you get all the paperwork together, and you get all the people together, and you got all the stakeholders together. And as soon as you hit that go button, it's like it's a race till the end. And this one was a bit more of a sprint than a marathon, just because we wanted to get it done as quickly as possible and also have it kind of through some of the Kickstarter for takedown. And I mean, it looking back, it's pretty incredible how many pieces need to kind of fit the puzzle to get to the point where I hit upload on YouTube and an episode goes up. I mean, that process is it's a lot.
Well, and
I'm still experiencing a lot of biofeedback from the last week.
Well, yeah, we just finished filming on Friday last week, so the time to turn around an episode 1. We remember we talked about releasing on Monday. I'm real glad we didn't do that.
Oh man, and that's the thing, right? Like, you hope to get kind of a good to go version, and then things happen in studio, and the studio that we had didn't have the best sound kind of scenario for filming, and so there was a lot of post kind of processing that we needed to do, and between Joel and I, we accomplished some magic, I think, and came up with a really awesome sounding episode. So we're very happy.
Agreed. Awesome. Well, from watching the stream, by the way, I got so distracted when we started up and I heard myself like 55 times in 55 places. I'm Rem Alternis. I'm the community and marketing director for Catalyst Game Labs. And I'm here with Jason Azevedo from Realmsmith and our GM for the series. So really, really excited about this. We had an FAQ that popped up in the chat. The most popular question was about the rule system we're using.
Sure.
So can you talk a little bit about the approach that you took for excommunication and what that turned into?
Yeah. So, I mean, from my perspective, we tried playing Sixth at San Diego Comic-Con. And the reason people love Six is because it is a crunchy system. There's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of tables, there's things like that. And so, we just felt that Anarchy was maybe a little bit of an easier step for us, being brand new Shadowrun players. We love the lore, and because it's sci-fi, sometimes it's even easier to grasp than a fantasy RPG is, just because a lot of the things exist in our world already. And so, that whole thing is easier to grasp, but then the rules itself, I just felt, looking at Anarchy and looking at them both kind of side by side, having a brand new cast that had hardly played, myself, who was new to the rule set, but obviously have been aware and into the lore of Shadowrun for some time. We just felt that kind of using the mechanics of Anarchy was an easier step into that world, and a quicker step, and also allowed for a more cinematic experience, and allowed us to kind of like be and we were very rules heavy in this episode. That is not the way the season goes in its entirety. There was a lot of role play. There's a lot of kind of immersive cinematic experiences. And so we wanted to make sure that we had something that would allow us to breathe that way, for a stream, from a stream perspective.
Right. Well, and we had the session 0 at San Diego Comic-Con, which is we're going to publish. But based on where that left off, the team was right in the middle, like the firefight was starting. And so to be able to right away see initiatives, see the rules in play, and how we're using them, I think is not a bad approach. So so which specific elements did you so we used like bases Anarchy. What did you get rid of from Anarchy, and what did you replace with Six?
Yeah, and I mean, we got a bunch of comments, and we'll get more comments throughout the series regarding, like, which system are you using, and it's a bit of a homebrew situation, and it kind of is. It's kind of a mix of what we felt we wanted to play, and that's the beauty of TTRPGs, is like, this is my home game, and we are taking the best of what we felt applied to our table and for what our players wanted to play, and are doing that. And so for me, the core mechanics are mostly Anarchy. What we did is obviously allowed for the things in Sixth that take it away from kind of the scene mechanic, and made it more of a long play, long form RPG experience. And you'll see that it's not like we don't go from scene to scene, much like Anarchy is kind of like a movie scene situation. It is kind of a continuative narrative throughout the whole 8 parts. And so that was the big thing. We took the simplistic mechanics from Anarchy, and then we brought in some of the long form stuff. Some of the other things that we did is we mixed a little bit of edge from Sixth and the way it works a bit more into Anarchy. We're tracking ammo because I think that's also cinematic. And as much as Anarchy says, like, cinema and I always count the rounds in an action movie. I'm like, they should have reloaded. And so I really felt that I wanted that pressure of conserving ammunition and so on. So we brought that in. We brought a lot of gear and weapons and all of that stuff from Six. So basically, they could choose from anything. And if they chose an augmentation or a spell that wasn't in Anarchy, much like Anarchy suggests you do, we just created shadow amps that fit that.
Yeah.
And that was most of it, I want to say.
Well, and I do have to shout out too that at San Diego Comic-Con, we did play Six World. And it was so heavy for the actors to learn so early on. And we really, this is for our viewers, Jason and I had some conversations behind the scene of what really was our goal for this stream. And as a Shadowrun player that loves Shadowrun, I'm here for the story. I'm here for these characters, but really as a marketing tool, this is to get a new generation of Shadowrunners into the game. So this isn't about like, well, you rolled initiative wrong, Jason, like, or anything like that. This is about bringing Shadowrun to a new player base and to people that are going to love it. So making it accessible, which is something that is a big complaint about Shadowrun. Anjali came to me on the last day and said, I didn't want to play Shadowrun because I've heard the horror stories of how crunchy it is. So getting it started with accessibility, and then if you want more crunch later on, you can, but it doesn't have to be that way. This is about the story, the world, the setting.
Yeah, there is absolutely a place for those that want a crunchier system. There's lots of RPers out there that appreciate that like tables and math. And we're just not that group, but we still wanted to play Shadowrun, and that's okay. And there are all kinds of gamers, and what you'll find is, it would be a travesty to bring this caliber of cast to the table and then be referencing charts and really rules heavy. We want to role play, we want to enjoy, we want to be able to, and not to say, again, I don't want to dreck on Sixth in any way, shape, or form. It's a wonderful system. Lots of people love that system. We are still playing Shadowrun, and I think that's what, how different is Sixth than First, or even from Fifth, right? And some people decide and choose which system they like, and then they kind of dig in and dive into that system. And so Anarchy just spoke to us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there were some flavors of Sixth Edition that, as we were talking, that I wanted to build in. So a couple of things that feel like a standard Shadowrun rather than Anarchy to me is the glitch mechanic. Being able to roll your die, and if more than half are ones, it's a glitch. And if more than half your ones are, or half your die are ones and there's no hits, it's a critical glitch. So getting rid of the glitch die in Anarchy and replacing that is an easy adjustment that feels a little more like the crunchier Shadowrun.
Sure. Yep.
The other thing was edge mechanics. So there are an overwhelming amount of ways that you can use edge in Sixth Edition that Anarchy only had one or two. It was post edge, for those of you who know the Fifth Edition, where you get to re-roll all your failures. And I think one more maybe. But we wanted to add a little bit more of that flavor. So you could turn a 4 into a 5. You could turn a 2 into a 1 if we wanted the GM to glitch. You could pre-edge your roll, which is adding your edge attribute to your dice pool. So you get more dice to roll and sixes explode, which is a ton of fun for me. That's my preferred method. So we wanted to add a little bit more of that felt like Sixth Edition. So cool. So we talked a little bit about the mechanics and stuff like that. So I think that one of the things that I'd like to talk about a little bit is some of the rules that we got to see tonight in tonight's episode and how those functionally work versus how maybe we do or don't do them in the stream. Because again, your number one goal is to tell a story. So entirely honest, we don't always get the rules right live. And that's okay, because as long as the story sticks, we would actually talk about it at the studio and be like, we'll talk about it in the commentary. So this is our time to do it. So I actually have our producer here. Shout out to Teslan from Rem Alternis Productions. He's going to bring up the character sheet for Outlaw on the screen. Our very special guest, Jason Charles Miller, tonight. And so we're going to talk a little bit about using him as an example of some of these rule sets. So the first thing you really had everyone do is roll initiative. Do you want to talk about how initiative works, Jason?
Yeah. So initiative, I believe it's the Anarchy mechanic, which is it's 6 die plus agility, I believe. I'd have to look at my cheat sheet.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. 6 die plus agility plus any modifiers that you might have.
Yeah. So that's very different as well. I didn't realize it until you made that roll at the studio that that's how Anarchy worked. Because in 6th and 5th edition, there's 6, like the number 6. or 8 or whatever your base stat is, plus 2d6. So if you roll 12 on 2d6, you add 6 to it, rather than having it be the number of hits you get, which is how this works.
Sure.
So that's a little bit of a difference between Anarchy and Sixth. But you got it absolutely right in terms of how you utilized it for the stream, where the number of hits equals initiative order. One of the things that happened, though, and I can't remember if it's in this battle or another one, is 2 of our players tied. And when that happens, again, we have a little separation between Anarchy and Sixth World, where in Sixth World you have a few extra attributes like reaction. So they talk about the keyword Eric. So compare your edge, whoever's edge is higher. Then compare reaction, whoever's reaction is higher. Then intuition. Then charisma. But when we don't have all those stats, I think in Anarchy it's edge and then agility. And at a certain point, I think it says, let the GM decide who goes first.
Yeah, and I consciously did that. I consciously said, "Hey, who wants to go first?" And I always gave the tie to the players instead of the enemy or the NPCs. And again, that's one of those things where it's like initiative is pretty straightforward, and I'd rather just say who wants to go first, and one of them say, "Okay, I will," or "You will," and it'd be quick, rather than us have to go back to the character sheets again, have to figure that out, maybe have to roll again. Like, to me, it's like if we have a mechanic that works, then also allowing player agency to decide amongst themselves and problem solve amongst themselves is okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So let's talk a little bit about the attributes and the skills on the character sheet. So you guys can see Outlaw between us here. So like I said, they don't have reaction. A couple of a very few of the attributes that are available in Sixth World are not on Anarchy, but you've got your strength, your agility, which is basically your speed, your willpower, your logic, charisma, and edge, which is your luck roll, basically. And then you've got your skill set as well. So you in Sixth World, you can build out a lot of skills and specialties. You only get a few in Anarchy to keep it streamlined. So as you built these characters, Jason, what did you keep in mind for some of their skills and what you wanted them to be able to accomplish?
Yeah, and let me say that even the character sheet you're looking at now, I redesigned. I photoshopped it, as I like to call it. And I'm sorry to the designers that created the Anarchy sheets to start with. But what I did was I took out a lot of it's important for new players when you're jumping into Anarchy to kind of have the role play prompts, so that they kind of know the type of character it is and what their cues are and things like that. I removed all that, just because our players are so experienced and such experienced role players and kind of know their characters, and we dug into the backstory and kind of built those characters that I wasn't worried about giving them any sort of prompts. So I took out cues, and there was another one too that I took out a section of, and I can't remember what it was called, but I removed those, and I gave a lot more room for gear because I felt I needed it. Outlaw doesn't have a lot of gear; some of them do. I also put vehicles and drones in there. I also put wealth in there because it doesn't track wealth in Anarchy, and I wanted to do that as well. I added a little bit more room for contacts, and then I added ammunition on the right, as is the armor kind of on the left.
Well, Jason Hardy's in chat, so Jason,
hey Jason,
new edition of Anarchy. Maybe you've got a little bit of a sample, maybe, to use in the future.
Yeah, and then I added a little bit like of a circuitry kind of. Anyways, I'm an artist, and so you give me art, and I'll art it. I'll way over art it. Hi Jason, thank you so much for creating no, but so for me, I just recreated something. It was a homebrew kind of sheet that made sense for our purposes and did exactly what we needed it to do, and just really pulling from what was there and then building on that for our own needs. Cool. And just be able to pull the things a bit more accessibly from that for a longer form, non-scene based campaign or adventure.
So let's walk through a little bit then, talking about the attributes and these skills. if Outlaw made a really cool sniper gun shot. So how does he roll his skill check, and what do you roll against him? And then how is damage dealt? How does a gunfire turn work?
Sure. So he would, and what I've done is I've also done the math for them, so they didn't have to do math every single time they rolled. And so, for example, his heavy weapons is 8. He would roll 8 dice, plus any modifiers based on environment or any shadow amps that he might have. So that still has to be added to that, because you don't know, right? He may have a shadow amp that's specific to a weapon, or a type of weapon. And so the 8 is what he rolls, plus any bonuses to shadow amps, for shadow amps, or modifiers, if it's dark, if it's bright, if he's hurt, all the kind of stuff that we just add as flavor. So he would roll that. And then, of course, the enemy would then roll. I got this wrong a bunch of times on stream, and I apologize ahead of time. It is agility plus logic to evade. And then if he beat the enemy, then we would take, which I forgot to do in the first episode, but I remembered in the second episode, then we took the difference of the hits and added it to the damage of the weapon. And then that was the damage that it did to the enemy. So that's how that works for us. Awesome. And that was just super quick and easy. There's still not every time. I do have thresholds that I've set for difficulties, so I don't roll every time. It's not always a contested roll, but most of the times it is.
And Anarchy sets that up well for you too, where they have a table where it's like easy, medium, hard, difficult, super difficult, impossible, kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
sure.
So, and then one of the things that I saw you type in chat that we missed in this episode is you add your net hits to the damage. So your damage, your pistol, for instance, might do 6 physical damage, but if you got 3 net hits on it, if I rolled a 9 and you rolled a 6, then I got 3 nets on you. So that gets added to that 6 physical.
Sure does. Yeah.
So that gets lethal.
Yeah, and that's why it can get lethal. And that's like, if you look at Jason Charles Miller with the or Outlaw with the sniper rifle, he did like 9 damage. That's serious, especially when most characters have maybe 10 or 11 armor. You're already through to physical, so in 2 shots you can take somebody out, which That's makes awesome. Sense. I like the believability. I like the realism of the system in that way.
Right. You don't take 30 shots and keep going.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. Now we also had, I'm not sure, I think this came up 1 or 2 times in this episode, but I know it comes up more in the future, defaulting. So what happens if you don't have a certain skill? Like if if this troll in particular was not a shooter character, but had a gun, how would they default?
Yeah. So I also, depending on how I was feeling in the moment, that changed as well. And again, a lot of times it was to serve the narrative, right? So sometimes it makes sense to do it that way, and sometimes it doesn't. So what the book says is, Anarchy says, if you're trying to do a skill, and you're untrained, it's just the ability or the attribute that goes with it. And so if it's firearms and you don't have a firearm skill, then you're just using agility. Or if it's a non-skill, then you do double the attribute. And we could see sometimes those were really high. Or you add 2 attributes together that make sense, like perception, because there isn't a perception skill. Sometimes I felt like just making them roll their ability was a little bit too difficult, too much of a slap on the wrist in some ways, because almost everything is a skill. If that makes sense. There are very few things. If somebody says, "I want to do this," that you can't tie that to a skill.
Right.
And so, go ahead. And
especially because Anarchy, there's only like 6 or 8 slots for skills, so there's not that much you can do with it.
Right. So in that scenario, for me, sometimes I was like, well, just because you don't have piloting doesn't mean you can't drive a vehicle. And so would you really be that bad at driving a vehicle? Or whatever, you know what I mean? So it was this, there were moments where I was like, okay, well, it should be double your whatever, or it should be this and this, or it is half, because it is an actual skill.
Right.
What I tried to do is I focused on skills that I knew would have to be trained if you were to do it in real life.
Yeah.
Like biotech. If you have biotech, you wouldn't do a double attribute or add two attributes together. Biotech is a learned trained skill.
Right.
Much like firearms would be, or
So
much like something
something
that takes training.
instinctual versus something
Yeah.
that's trained.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so I kind of, in the moment sort of decided on what made sense in some
Yeah,
of those scenarios.
it's a hard call to make because when it comes to defaulting, yes, you get some dice even if you roll the attributes straight. So let's say like I'm not a very perceptive human being in real life. So if we're just looking at logic, for instance, for a observation, like do you notice something happening around you? If I have a logic score overall of 4, but I don't have perception,
Yeah.
4 dice is still pretty generous for me versus someone
Sure.
that maybe was like military or like is trained or security, someone that's used to scanning the crowd and looking for things that are weird.
Sure.
So I could definitely see some of that kind of difference in terms of choosing what you default and choose one attribute for versus what you don't.
Yeah.
So interesting. Okay, cool. Well, I want to do a little bit of promo for things going on with Shadowrun here, and then I have a question, Jason, that I'm going to ask each of our special guests each week in the post show commentary. I'm still scheduling guests. In 2 weeks, I'm going to have Luis on, so that'll be a fun one. But let me ask you,
Sure.
what is now after playing? What is your favorite thing about Shadowrun?
Oof. Man, yeah, that's tough because there is a lot
Tell me
that
all
I
of it.
enjoyed.
I'll stay here as long as you want to talk about Shadowrun.
Yeah, fair enough. Favorite thing about Shadowrun. First off, it's new. It's newer to me. I have focused a lot on fantasy RPG stuff for a long time, and so having sort of dipping into sci-fi again, which I had before previously with another system, is cool. I love that it's sci-fi plus fantasy races and magic. Like, I think to me, it just feels a bit more like home for me because I love fantasy RPG so much that it was very easy. To me, it's easy to imagine, and to kind of dig into the world. That's the first thing. The second, I'm not just gonna say one. The second thing is kind of like the political intrigue, and kind of the corporate hierarchy, and that kind of espionage feel. You folks will see kind of the web of deceit and story and narrative that I have sort of weaved throughout the series, and it's intricate. And I love that. I love that it's not just you get a quest, go out, beat some goblins, come back. There's like this deep sort of ability to. So I love that. I love that kind of arcing espionage corporate narrative that exists. And the world is so rich. You'll see in the series we pull a lot from the lore and from the narrative in the history of Shadowrun. A lot. Some things we touch on briefly. Some things are core to the storyline. And that's the beauty of playing a game that is so beloved and so long lasting. Is the ability to kind of have that there.
I agree with you about the setting. There's something to having the D&D fantasy and the cyberpunk dystopia set in our world, where it's like, man, all we need is the magic. We've got the cyberpunk dystopia. We're living it. But like, let's have the magic, and I'm ready for it.
Yeah, 100%. And it also, like, throwing all that into the mix creates some really immersive and chaotic moments where you have magic meets the Matrix meets real meets space meets guns meets and you'll see. I think that opens up the opportunity for the cast and for myself to really get creative, like to really dig in and be like, how can I not game the system, but what can I do in order to kind of use all these elements to my favor? And it just makes for a really exciting narrative experience and cinematic experience, which again, I think everyone will appreciate.
Yeah. And I really appreciate too, shout out to Lauren Coleman, our CEO at Catalyst, for making this possible. And then also for being on set and being kind of the rules and lore consultant, if you will, where like even Anjali at the beginning of this episode is like, can I swear? And it's like, Shadowrun's a dark world. It is dystopian. It's scary. It's lethal. Like players can die. And the things that are going on are the betrayal and the political structure is really upsetting at times. And so being able to tap into that darkness, I think is really important. It's what makes it different, like you said, from like oh, the goblin with the funny voice is dead, so like back next mission, you know, kind of thing. And we all
there's still goblins with funny voices in our game. Spoiler warning, but but yes, absolutely. And I think, you know, for us, we've always been kind of a PG-13 channel. We did Cyberpunk and it wasn't. But you know, and we leaned into like the Frax and the Drex and all that kind of stuff as well. But also, I think to get real emotion out, I think that sometimes that can feel a little forced. And so we peppered it in and you'll hear it. Mm-hmm. But I don't see that in 60 years in the future that all swearing would be gone. So for me, it was like, why not? Why can't we, you know, and I'm sorry for those at home, there is a content warning in the description. But for those of you that watch Realmsmith and like, oh my gosh, that this is too much or whatever, I just think it would be doing disservice to the lore and to the world if it wasn't gritty.
Yeah, and
I think it needs to be gritty.
Yeah, it came up in chat too that this is, you know, it is a dark world. These are criminals. Criminals aren't necessarily bad guys in this world. So making sure that like you see you're in the shadows, you are surviving in the shadows of the rest of the world, living in the light. So there's gonna be flavor to that. I agree. Thank you for that. And thank you, Jason, so much for bringing, you know, I said this a couple times on set, but and for our audience being on set, you know, I got to sit there and watch this story be told. And the two things for me that I said to the cast and to Jason is, you guys brought a world that I love so much to life, and that means the world to me. And then the other thing is the story and the characters and the moments that this cast has throughout the rest of the season. I feel that there's going to be a new generation of Shadowrun viewers, Shadowrun players that fall in love with this world as much as I have. And that means the world to me too. So thank you so much, Jason, for doing what you've done with this.
And it's an honor. And I am super thankful that Lauren and the team at Catalyst and having Talon on set and him pulling his own and doing great and really rocking it was amazing. But I mean, thank you, because you really championed Realmsmith, I think, in general in this process and supported us through the whole thing and have been such an amazing asset in this whole thing. So we couldn't have done this without you. Awesome. We absolutely couldn't have done this without Lauren and their support and them believing in us. And I think that we've created something really super special. I think that when people watch this, yes, it's a great grimdark sort of world, where dystopian world where there's magic and explosions and all that. But I think we really leaned into kind of like the social aspects of what the reality of living in this world might be. We really leaned into what this sort of lifestyle of a Shadowrunner does to people, and the kind of psychological effects it can have on those that run for a living. And so, again, lots of action, lots of Shadowrun goodness, but there's a lot of heart in this series, like a lot of heart in this series. And so I ask that people who watch it, even if it's not your Shadowrun, it absolutely still is Shadowrun. And I think that people will appreciate how much our cast gives to this show.
Awesome. Well, let me make a couple of quick announcements. I saw a couple questions in the chat as well. Since they're short, I don't mind hitting those pretty quickly, but Shadowrun Takedown is our board game Kickstarter that is live on Kickstarter for about 2.5 more days. So check it out. It's by Lynn Studios, and it's a really cool game. There's actually not only the board game co-op mode where you're a Shadowrunner team, you're running against a timer, so you've got kind of that stress level that should come with a Shadowrun, but you've also got solo play and you've got PvP mode as well. So there's a lot of different ways to play the game, and a lot of different campaigns and missions that you can join. We're really close to our $120,000 stretch goal. So head on over to Kickstarter, search for Takedown, and get on that before it ends. Additionally, because of the Realmsmith stream, we have offered a couple of incentives for our viewers. So you can go, there's a code, correct, Jason, for the online store?
Sure.
Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, for sure. They've created a promo code. The promo code is Realmsmith15, REALMSMITH 15. If you use that at the Catalyst store, you will get 15% off your purchase. And I don't know if that's just Shadowrun stuff, or is that store-wide?
Talon set it up, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but it's
get
50%.
Everything now while you can.
Yes, exactly. And go buy Shadowrun. It's awesome.
Additionally, at Drive-Thru RPG, if you like your PDFs, we've got the Shadowrun Anarchy book. We've got the Sixth World Core Rulebook, and we've got the Sixth World Companion, all on sale through Drive-Thru RPG just through the end of this week to help promote the Realmsmith stream. So thank you all so much. I think we had just a couple of quick questions that I saw. Who did the art, Jason?
I did.
What?
I created the art. Thank you very much. I know a lot of people asking. It was I'm an artist, and that's my one of my contributions.
I told Jason he's not allowed to be this multi-talented. Like, you got to pick something, and like that's your thing.
I'm deficient in a lot of other places, so it kind of just ask my wife. It all balances out.
Jeffrey Baker asked, how hard was the character creation process for your experienced team without a lot of SR rules knowledge?
Yeah, it was actually, so it was nice because the team at Catalyst actually had created characters prior to our San Diego game.
The Catalyst demo team did. We had some of our demo agents do it.
Yeah, so I just took those sheets and followed the rules in Anarchy for transferring characters. And so then I just kind of like plugged it all in and followed everything that it said that I needed to do. And it was actually a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the character creation process. And then once I did that, then I was able to create the NPCs and some of the other people that you'll see, as well as some of the creatures and monsters and things like that. So
awesome. And let's see, I'm trying to scan for any additional questions. Most people just giving lots of compliments, which I love too. Send us all the compliments.
Yes.
The more viewership we get, the more sales tracking through the store and Drive-Thru RPG, the more we get interacting with this, the more content like this we're likely to see and do in the future. And with the 35th anniversary of Shadowrun coming up next year, I think there's going to be a lot of cool things in store that we can do. So spread the word, talk about this, and make sure that that we can keep it going. Oh, chopped character sheets. So the ones that you created, Jason. Yeah, we should talk about like if we want to make those available, and we haven't really talked about that or how we would do it yet. So
yeah, I have ideas.
Cool.
And in fact, I was going to say, call me after this, Rem, because I have an idea.
Awesome. So no news at this time.
None. No news. Just ideas and conversations.
Neither of us have problem with making that happen. It's just a matter of when. We don't want to give you everything and then have you not watch the rest of the series. So you might have to, maybe we'll give you Outlaw first or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
I do want to try and integrate, we were short on time for first episode, but I do want to try and integrate maybe shots of the character sheets during the actual stream.
Cool.
So that people can kind of take a look at them. I mean, I spent all that extra time for something nobody would see. And so thank you for using them. And then maybe I'll put them on screen in the coming weeks.
I have 2 books filled with the printed character sheets and little blocks of everything that Jason had. Because he's like, do you want this stuff? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I know. Like in the morning on the way to the studio, when we were still setting up, I had to stop at Kinko's to print them in color because I
Kinko
had them
still
color.
exists?
Well, it was FedEx, Kinko's. I don't know. Sometimes they blur, but yeah, I actually had to stop to get them printed in color to make sure, because I spent the time colorizing them. It's the plight of an artist. But
Awesome. Yeah, I may in the future have a collage of Realmsmith stuff behind me on my wall when I'm done painting, because you can see all the tape
yeah,
up behind me. But
yeah,
uh,
yeah, and I think Jason in the chat just said, will they be available, like the blank ones? And so yeah, I think that's what we intended. So yeah, I
we'll
love
talk
to.
about it.
I may even, yeah, we could do, like, at the very least, I think we can do like links to download the PDFs when we pop up their character information. There could be a
Mhm.
link where you could download their information and have like a character sheet. Blank ones, we'll talk.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for joining. We will be here post show for the next 8 weeks as we play each episode
Woo.
to talk through the rules, to talk through with the actors or the developers. I'm working right now on maybe for next week getting Jason Hardy to be my special guest so we can talk about development things for
And
Shadowrun.
how much we screwed it up. I love it. I can't wait.
Luckily, Jason's very nice. I mean, he might be mad at you for your portrayal of Torin. We'll see.
I know he's stay tuned.
So we'll get him on before that episode airs so that he can't be mad.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much for joining us. We will be back next week, and tell all your friends. And until next time, stay safe in the shadows.